Hello students, let's begin with the continuation of chapter friction part 2 that includes factors affecting friction. Means what are the factors on which the friction or the force of friction depends. The magnitude of friction depends on the following factors. Number 1, nature of the surface in contact, whether that surface is rough or smooth. Like roughness and smoothness of the surface plays a very important role in that force of friction. Then weight of the body as well. For example, pushing a box on a cemented floor is easier than pushing on grass, because on cemented floor the box does not get interlocked between the two surfaces. That is why lesser force needs to be applied to move it on the floor. That is, on a smooth surface friction is lesser and on rough surface it is more. Next is pushing a lighter. Here we are talking about the weight. Like pushing a lighter box is easier than a heavier one, as friction depends on the force with which two bodies in contact are held together. The force with which a body presses down the other in its weight is its weight. So, lighter the weight, lesser would be the force holding the two bodies together. So, lighter the object, lesser would be the force of friction. Then let's talk about types of forces or types of frictional forces. On the basis of the interaction of the surfaces in contact with each other, friction can be static, sliding, rolling, and fluid friction. What is static friction? The force of friction between two surfaces which are in contact, but there is no relative movement between them. So, static friction is the amount of the force applied at the instant when an object starts moving from its state of rest. For example, when you push a heavy box on the floor, the applied force to start it moving on the floor determines the static friction. Now, what is sliding friction? The force of friction between two surfaces when one body or object moves or attempts to move over the other. Sliding friction is the amount of force required to retain the state of motion of a moving object at the same state. For example, when force is applied to an already moving box to keep it moving on the floor with the same speed, the force determines sliding friction. See, this is the static friction when the object is kept and we try to move it. Whereas sliding friction when it is already in movement and again we apply some force to make it move. That is called sliding friction. What is rolling friction? It is the resistance produced when a rolling body moves over a surface. Rolling friction has a lesser magnitude than sliding friction. For example, small wheels in the surface offer very less friction. That is called rolling friction and make it easy to carry heavy luggage. That's why your big trolleys are held together by those wheels at its bottom and you slide with the help of that wheel only. So that applies rolling friction and the heavy luggage does not appear so heavy. Then fluid friction, the force opposes movement within fluids, that is called liquids, and gases are called together fluids. Fluid friction is also called as drag. Example, fluid friction is experienced by an aeroplane flying in the air. A boat stops when a boatman stops rowing it in water due to frictional force exerted by water or that fluid, and that is called fluid friction on the motion of the boat. Fluid friction depends on the nature of the fluid, as it is easier to stir a glass of water as compared to a glass of honey, because honey is thicker. Fine. So it is more viscous and offer greater friction. The fluid friction on an object also depend on its speed with respect to the fluid. Higher the speed, higher would be the fluid friction. Then comes shape also. Shape of the object affects the fluid friction. That is why the boat, ships, airplanes have a streamlined shape. That's all for this part. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.